Hello and welcome to Lab. My name is Ku and this is our laboratory for learning. So today we're going to take a look at another section from a previous article that we've looked at already. In a previous episode we looked at the article 10 of the best films of 2025 so far. We took a look at some advanced vocabulary about film criticism, film critique, high-level vocabulary used to describe some of these films that have come out in 2025. So we thought we'd take a look at two more films today and break down some of that vocabulary, look at some of that grammar, and hopefully provide you with some more advanced level English to study. Like always, there'll be some shadowing at the end of this episode. I'll read both of the selections today at proper native pace so that you can focus on pronunciation, rhythm, pacing. As always, a link to the original article is linked in the description below if you want to take a look at that. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's jump in to our next Lab. Okay, let's jump right in. The first selection, and that is the movie Warfare. So let's read the selection that we've chosen and see if we can pick out some vocabulary words that are interesting, that might be quite fun to take a look at. Warfare, a harrowing, visceral, real-time drama that recreates an actual battle between Navy SEALs and Al-Qaeda jihadists. Garland's virtuoso technique and Mendoza's first-hand experience of war blend in a film of uncompromising focus, which plunges us into the intensity of combat without explanation or backstory, focusing on the personal cost of combat and violence itself rather than the politics of the Iraq conflict. It reinvents the war film with bracing freshness and immediacy. Okay, a lot of fun, interesting vocabulary words in this selection. Let's go ahead and take a look at a few of them. The first one is harrowing. Harrowing is an adjective that means causing extreme distress or fear. If we look at our example sentence, we can see it was a harrowing experience to be lost at sea. So harrowing is a word that we use to describe instead of saying very bad or, dangerous. Something is harrowing. It's even a higher intensity level than bad or dangerous. Harrowing. The next vocabulary word is one of my favorites, the word visceral. Visceral is an adjective that describes something that is felt deeply and strongly, like a gut feeling. I often say it's like your whole body feels this thing. It's undeniable. So if we look at our example sentence, she had a visceral reaction to the news. That means when she heard the news, it made her feel uncomfortable. Not just, oh, I'm sad, or oh, that's interesting, but something inside her. Maybe it was anger, maybe she was depressed, maybe there was some sort of feeling that was very, very, very intense. Visceral. All right, our next vocabulary word, virtuoso. All right, virtuoso is a noun, and it describes a person, or it is a person with great skill, usually in music or another art. So we can see from our example sentence the phrase, he is a piano virtuoso. It just means this is someone who is incredibly talented, amazing, usually found in the arts or arts and entertainment industry. So someone with performing arts or visual art or something like that is usually seen to be a virtuoso. Okay, our next vocabulary word is uncompromising. Uncompromising is an adjective that means not willing to change or give up. So obviously, means not. So compromising means willing to change or give up. In this case, uncompromising, not willing to do that, not willing to change. In our example sentence, we see she had an uncompromising belief in truth. She was not willing to change or give up truth. Uncompromising. All of us have something in our lives where we are uncompromising when it comes to this idea or this thought. Okay, our next vocabulary word is the verb plunge. Right? So plunge is one of those fun action verbs that means to fall or jump quickly. So our example sentence, we can see, he watched the rock plunge into the lake. So it's a very descriptive word. Often it sounds like you're falling into something, especially water. Our next vocabulary word is the word immediacy. So immediacy is a noun here, and it means the quality of being urgent or direct. As we can see in our example sentence, the news had a sense of immediacy. So immediacy sort of describes something that is immediate. Something has immediacy, right? It has this sort of quality. Okay, let's take a look at that selection again and see if we can put some of this into context. So, warfare, a harrowing, visceral, real-time drama. So harrowing, something that describes like intense fear. Visceral, which means you feel it in your whole body. It's an extreme reaction to something. That recreates an actual battle between Navy SEALs and Al-Qaeda jihadists. So this is a drama that makes you feel like you're in part of the battle. Just makes you feel it from your very bones. Garland's virtuoso technique, so it's very skillful, dynamic technique, and Mendoza's first-hand experience of war blend in a film of uncompromising focus. So not willing to give up, not willing to settle, uncompromising, which plunges us, which fall very quickly or jump. So it's this action verb of putting us right into the action, into the intensity of combat without explanation or backstory, focusing on the personal cost of combat and violence itself rather than the politics of the Iraq conflict. It reinvents the war film with bracing freshness and immediacy. And immediacy meaning right now, in the moment, very relevant to what's happening. Warfare. So our final movie is Art for Everybody. And let's take a look at its description. Miranda Yusuf's riveting documentary tells the stranger-than-fiction story of Thomas Kinkade, one of the biggest-selling artists in history. Critics dismissed his work as nauseatingly sickly, but in the 1990s and 2000s, there were shops all around the U.S. devoted to Kinkade's sentimental pictures of cozy country cottages. Art for Everybody asks fascinating questions about who gets to decide what counts as legitimate art, and whether some paintings can be more moral than others. Questions that resonate today in light of the continuing culture wars in the U.S. A key part of Kinkade's marketing was his carefully constructed public image as a devoutly Christian, all-American family man. And yet, the so-called painter of light had a dark side too. All right, a fascinating movie. Let's take a look at some of the vocabulary in that description. The first word we want to look at is the word riveting. Riveting is an action that means completely engrossing and compelling. So when you see something riveting, you cannot look away. You must look at it. It's so amazing. If we look at our example sentence, the documentary was riveting from start to finish. It's one of those things where you look up and you think, well, where did the time go? I didn't think about anything else. I was so focused on what was in front of me. A movie, a TV show, a sports program, whatever. Something that is riveting. Okay, our second vocabulary word, dismiss. So dismiss is the verb that means to send away or reject. Right? If you were dismissed, it means I want nothing to do with this person. If you were dismissed from your job, you're sent away. If you dismiss someone, you think, they don't have anything of value. You send them away. Our example sentence, the manager decided to dismiss the complaints as irrelevant. So you reject them. To dismiss. All right, third vocabulary word, nauseating. Ooh, nauseating is a fun adjective that means causing nausea or disgust. It basically means it makes you want to throw up. If something is nauseating, you feel sick in your stomach, you don't like it very much, it gives you this kind of feeling. Let's look at our example sentence for a little bit more information. The smell from the dumpster was nauseating, right? It makes you sick to your stomach as if you want to throw up. Okay, the next vocabulary word, legitimate. Legitimate is an adjective that means conforming to the law or rules, genuine. So genuine is the word here when something is real. So if it's legitimate, we look at our example sentence, they raised legitimate concerns about the safety of the project. So these are real concerns, something that's very important, something that you should pay attention to. So if something is legitimate, it means it is the real copy of something. It's real and you should take it seriously. The next vocabulary word is resonate. Resonate is a word that means to produce a deep, full sound or idea. So if I hear something or someone says something to me and it resonates with me, it means, I feel that way, very personal. I connect with it in a very real way. Our example sentence, her words resonated with the entire audience. So what she said, the audience felt very deeply connected to that. Okay, the next vocabulary word, devoutly. So devoutly is an adverb that means in a devout or religiously committed way. A devout or devoutly following something, it means it is absolutely 100% something that you are okay with or you want to see succeed. So devout comes from religion, to be someone who is devout to that religion. So in our example sentence, he devoutly attended services every Sunday. And in this sentence, services is church. So he devoutly went to church. The next vocabulary phrase is the phrase so-called. So-called is used to show doubt about someone or something's real nature. So-called is very similar to when you do quotes around something. You're saying this is not really that thing. Oh, that's a delicious sandwich, right? So-called means I don't believe it's that, but that's what it's called, right? So you're showing that you doubt something is the real thing. In our example sentence, we see the so-called expert gave very questionable advice. So in this sentence, they don't think this person is an expert. He's so-called. All right, fantastic use of vocabulary there to kind of help us understand this description. So let's read it one more time, and then we can point out the context of those vocabulary words. Miranda Yusuf's riveting documentary. So this documentary was incredibly interesting, very fun. Tells the stranger than fiction story of Thomas Kinkade, one of the biggest selling artists in history. Critics dismissed his work as nauseatingly sickly. So the critics sent his work away. They didn't like it very much because his work made them feel sick to their stomach. But in the 1990s and 2000s, there were shops all around the U.S. devoted to Kinkade's sentimental pictures. So these shops were absolutely devoted to these pictures. They loved Kinkade and his pictures in a way that was almost, reverent, like a religion. Art for Everybody asks fascinating questions about who gets to decide what counts as legitimate art. So what gets to count as real art? Who gets to say, who gets to decide that? So legitimate. And whether some paintings can be more moral than others. Questions that resonate today in light of the continuing culture wars in the U.S. So these questions, people are feeling these questions. They take these questions very personal today, especially in the U.S. A key part of Kinkade's marketing was his carefully constructed public image as a devoutly Christian all-American family. Again, devout meaning he was following his faith. He was always going to church. And so he was very, very much a religious person. And yet, this so-called painter of light was his title, but these people don't think he was very much a painter of light or a good person. He's a so-called painter of light. Had a dark side too. Okay, a lot of interesting, fun, dynamic vocabulary words we've taken a look at. So let's go ahead and do some shadowing. And like always, the shadowing, I will read this at native pace, and this is your chance to do some listening exercises, to pay attention to the pacing, the rhythm, pronunciation of some of these words. Be sure to stop and rewind and go back over a few sentences just so you can practice saying them along with me. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Warfare. A harrowing, visceral, real-time drama that recreates an actual battle between Navy SEALs and Al-Qaeda jihadists. Garland's virtuoso technique and Mendoza's first-hand experience of war blend in a film of uncompromising focus, which plunges us into the intensity of combat without explanation or backstory. Focusing on the personal cost of combat and violence itself, rather than the politics of the Iraq conflict, it reinvents the war film with bracing freshness and immediacy. Art for everybody. Miranda Yusuf's riveting documentary tells the stranger-than-fiction story of Thomas Kinkade, one of the biggest-selling artists in history. Critics dismissed his works as nauseatingly sickly, but in the 1990s and 2000s, there were shops all around the U.S. devoted to Kinkade's sentimental pictures of cozy country cottages. Art for Everybody asks fascinating questions about who gets to decide what counts as legitimate art, and whether some paintings can be more moral than others. Questions that resonate today in light of the continuing culture wars in the U.S. A key part of Kinkade's marketing was his carefully constructed public image as a devoutly Christian, all-American family man. And yet, the so-called painter of light had a dark side too. All right, good work with that. There were some fascinating vocabulary words in there when we were looking at describing some of the top 10 films of 2025. So we hope you enjoyed them. Hope you found some of the vocabulary interesting. Maybe some of the words will find their way into some of your writing or conversations. If you enjoyed this kind of article, definitely give it a like, maybe hit the subscribe button, click on another one of these other articles up here that might lead you to some more vocabulary and phrases. Definitely check out the article in the description below if you want to see the entire article. And like always, part of this collab is on you, so use one of those words that you found interesting or dynamic in the comments below. Make a new sentence of your own. I'll see you next time in our very next collab.